For our hazelnut crunch prep, we have two components. One, we're going to have our chocolate crunch will be at the bottom of the bar, and then second, we'll be making chocolate ganache, which will be on top of the bar. First, we want to start with our chocolate crunch base. We want to take our chocolate calays, put them over a little steam bath, and we just want to melt that and stir it. Low flames. You know, you just want that steam to come out to melt it gently. Just give it a stir every once in a while until they're all melted. Once our chocolate is nicely melted, no lumps, we're going to take our praline paste. And one thing you got to be careful and be concerned about this praline paste is the oil will separate, especially after it sits for a while on the shelf. So you got to make sure that's mixed up very, very well before it's measured to emulsify that oil back in with the ground hazelnuts. So we're going to add this to our chocolate using a rubber spatula to get out everything, and then fold this together. And then we're going to take our feuilletine, almost like little cigarettes that are all broken up into pieces to give it that nice crunch. So we're going to add those, and now we're going to gently fold those into the chocolate. Scraping the outside of the bowl, turning it over, cutting down through the middle, folding it over. There we go. So no lumps of chocolate. Now we're going to let this sit at room temperature until it comes down to around 82 degrees. For our chocolate ganache, we're taking our heavy cream, bringing it up to a boil, taking it off the heat, and we're going to stir in our chocolate calays, our semi-sweets, and we're just going to stir this until all this is melted in well. Once our chocolate is melted, we're going to add our unsalted butter and a little bit of salt. Blend that together. Once that butter is melted, we're going to place that in a stainless steel bowl also to help cool it faster, and we're going to bring that down to 82 degrees also. So our butter's melt nicely. This takes a second. Again, making sure we use a rubber spatula to get every little bit of chocolate. And we're just going to let that butter melt in. Sit that off to the side. Now we're going to take our crunch mold, and as you can see, I secured it on all four sides with a little bit of tape to keep it from moving. All right? And now that our feuilleté crunch is down to 82 degrees, we're going to place this carefully into the bottom of the mold, trying not to get onto the sides because we want a nice separation of layers. If a little bit gets on the side, it'll be all right. Try put it in as careful as leveling it off as you go, getting it into the corners. Oop. Fumble. So work that into the corners, and then we're going to take a metal spatula, gently push that down. Again, we want to be, fairly gentle with this because we don't want to crush the feuilletine on the inside. But again, working it into the corners, trying to keep the sides clean. Here we can see we need to push that down into the corners a little bit, leveling it off. So we'll have nice straight levels. And then we're going to take it and we're going to tap it on our board to get out any air pockets that might be in there. We're going to let this sit. We're going to put it in the refrigerator, and then as soon as our ganache comes down to temperature, we'll layer our ganache on top. Our chocolate crunch layer has been in the refrigerator now for about 45 minutes, or you also can put it in the freezer for about 30 minutes. As you can see, it just set nicely, all right? So now we're gonna take our chocolate ganache, which is now temped out to 82 degrees, and we're gonna pour that over top our crunch layer. Again, using a spatula, scraping that bowl out to get all the chocolate. All right, and then we'll just level that out with our spatula. Nice and even, making sure we get in the corners so we don't lose a portion. Okay, and then, got the corners over here. And then we're gonna tap that down. As you can see, it levels it off nicely. And we're gonna take this and place it back in the walk-in until it sets. Usually takes about 2 to 3 hours to set completely. For our vanilla rum sauce, we're gonna take 1 quart of half and half, put it in a pot, and we're gonna put that on the stove just to come to a boil. While that's coming to a boil, we're gonna take our 10 egg yolks, our 8 ounces of granulated sugar, our 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch, and we're gonna blend those together. And like most custards, we don't whisk those until we get a little lemony consistency. See how it just lightens up a little bit as that sugar dissolves. And then we're going to take our hot half and half, and we're going to temper the eggs with the half and half. So that means we're just going to add a little bit. Then we're going to blend that together. Once that's blended, we'll add a little bit more. You don't want to add too much at one time. You don't want to add too much at one time, because if you do, you could curdle your eggs. And then we're going to add the rest. And now we're going to take this and bring this over to the stove and put it on a pot with water, and we're going to finish cooking our vanilla rum sauce. All right, we just want to gently continue to move. This is one thing that you have to watch. You can't walk away from this. So you want to gently move with the rubber spatula your custard, and you'll see the foam will start to subside the thicker it gets. The biggest thing for this also is you want to make sure you always have ready beforehand a bowl of ice and your bain-marie, so you can put this directly into your ice bath to stop the cooking process. You can see how the foam is dissipating now. Okay, because all the foam is gone, it's starting to thicken. You can feel it with your spatula. And now we're getting a nice nappe on the back of our spatula. Give it about another 30 seconds. All right, we're gonna bring this, we're gonna put this directly into our ice bain-marie. It has to be strained, but we don't want to strain it now, because the time that it takes to strain it through the chinois, your sauce can overcook. So it's always better to chill it down first. And we still want to move that around a little bit for about 30 seconds after it goes in the bain-marie, so that way it cools down evenly, so the center doesn't stay cooking. And now we're going to take this, put this off to the side. After it's cool, we're going to strain it. Take our chilled sauce, and we're going to strain this now through the chinois. You always want to strain it because you can get that, maybe that little piece of cooked egg white that was left on there. You always can use a ladle. And then we're going to take our rum extract, or rum flavoring, not extract, it's a flavoring, very similar, not quite as strong. And we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons. And 1 tablespoon of vanilla paste. This has the vanilla beans in there. 1 tablespoon of the vanilla paste. And I don't know if you can see, but you have the nice little specks of the vanilla bean. Now we're going to take this, again, put it in Cambro, date it, label it, put it in the fridge. For our chocolate sauce, very simple. We're going to take our water, our sugar, granulated sugar, and our butter, put that all in our saucepan. We're going to bring this, put this over on the stove, bring it to a boil, take it off the stove, whisk in our cocoa powder, our melted sugar, or melted chocolate, or not melted chocolate in the warm liquid, and we're done. So again, our water, sugar, butter on the stove. Our water came to a boil, melted our butter, dissolved our sugar. Now we are going to whisk in our cocoa powder. You always want to do the cocoa powder first, that way it will fully dissolve before you add the chocolate. If you do the chocolate first and the cocoa powder, sometimes that powder will create lumps because the chocolate's thicker. So that's dissolved nicely. Now we're going to add our semi-sweet chocolate. That melts pretty quick. Stir that in. And then we're going to keep this and cool it down and keep it at room temperature. There we go. So after it cools, we can put a lid on it, cover, label, and date. There we go, keep it for service. Chocolate sauce. All right, to cut our crunch cake, now that it's all nicely set, all right, we're gonna remove our tape. And one thing great about this dessert is that this holds very well in the walk-in. You can, after you unmold it, you can take it all off, put it on an upside down sheet pan, and you can hold 4 or 5. So this is gonna work out fantastic for parties. So now we're gonna take our torch, okay, we're just gonna lightly torch the sides, so then that way it's gonna loosen our mold. Just easily. Now our mold is marked with portions. All right, we're gonna take our knife that's been sitting in a little warm water. We're gonna line up on our marks and just kind of like seesaw back and forth. Cut a few portions here. Every time in between, you want to dip your knife and then wipe it off with a clean kitchen towel. And then we'll take a palette knife. As you can see the beautiful layers of the crunch and then the ganache on top. So very important, what you need to do is you need to cut these and let these sit out at room temperature for 20 minutes before service, so they temper and soften up. Again, you want to make sure your edges are nice and clean and straight. So again, 20 minutes before service, we'll take these out and we'll let them come up to temp. Okay, for the plating of our chocolate crunch bar, we'll take 1 portion of our cake, which has been temped for 20 minutes at room temperature. And now we're gonna take 2 teaspoons of chocolate sauce, and that gets placed over the top. This is what's gonna hold our chocolate curls on there. A little bit will run off to the side. And then we're gonna put on 1 teaspoon of vanilla sauce, which we're just gonna make little lines that are gonna run off to the side. One tablespoon of our chocolate, dark chocolate and white chocolate pearls. 1 tablespoon of our white chocolate curls, keeping as much on the top as possible. If a little falls off, that's all right. And then we're going to take our chocolate cigarette. One, we're going to go right down in the cake on an angle. And then the other one, we're actually going to put inside of the cake, on the side of the cake, and just push it in slightly with your thumb. And then we're going to dust that lightly with a little powdered sugar. And you have our chocolate hazelnut crunch cake.